Good afternoon and welcome. The Monday, September 17th, 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting is now in session. The Reverend Joe Griffith from Rehoboth Baptist Church has been kind enough to come and give us the invocation and pledge allegiance. If you could all rise. I'm sorry. I thought Joe Griffith was here. Mr. Beaumont, if you may. I apologize.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for this glorious day, Lord, and first and foremost, I'm reminded at how we were spared the wrath of Hurricane Florence. Father, I thank you that for all intents and purposes, it was a non-event for Currituck County. And Lord, I knew that some people did have loss, but Father, all we have to do is look at our brethren to the south and know it could have been much, much worse. Lord, thank you for your protection during that storm. Father, we ask that you would be with the people that have been affected so viciously from this storm. And Lord, I pray that you would encourage them as they try to get back to a normal life, Lord God. Father, I pray your wisdom over tonight's meeting. I pray that you would help us to clearly hear the issues before us, Lord, and rule in the best interest of this county, Father, and its citizenry. Lord, bless this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Commissioner Beaumont. Hopefully the rest of this meeting will go much smoother. At this point, I will call for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a so moved and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to our first agenda item, public comments. I currently do not have anyone signed up for public comments. Would someone like to speak during public comments this evening? I have you speaking during the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to speak to public comments as well?
Yes.
Okay, come on up. If you would come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, that'd be great. Thank you, sir.
Alton Brook, 114 Hidden View Loop, Moyock Crossings. We're new residents there, in the process of moving in right now. This item came to my attention just a couple of days ago, and we did not receive the letter that was sent to the Phase 1 people about the movement of this boundary that affects property owners. Well, our lot was included in this, and I don't know the reasoning behind it, why it would include our lot 45 into this setback. And that's what I would like to find out today,
Okay.
and how it's going to impact us in the future as far as taxes, increasing taxes because lots will be bigger, or why it would have to impact us at all.
Okay, great. We'll answer those questions during this session this evening.
Thank you.
We'll most definitely make that happen.
All right.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Would anyone else like to speak during public comments? With that, I will close the public comments section. Moving on to Commissioner's Report. If I may start this evening, I've got a little bit to say. Everyone knows we had a storm last week. And I had the pleasure of coming up here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday last week and watching things unfold and how things go during an emergency. And I want to commend some folks. Mary Beth, Rebecca, all the department heads, law enforcement, EMS, and roughly 175 county employees are at the ready for the citizens of this county. Everyone knew their roles before and after the storm. Many folks wear different hats. It's not in their day-to-day operations of whatever their job is during a storm. So it takes them outside of their responsibilities, and their eagerness and willingness to volunteer really stands for what this county is and how great we are. We did a tremendous job informing the citizens before the storm and after. Commissioners, putting out on Facebook, texting people, emailing people, people making phone calls. It was a great, great concerted effort. The coordinated efforts between Currituck, our neighbors to the south in Dare County, regional emergency operations personnel, state emergency operations personnel, federal emergency operations personnel, was amazing to watch. The conversations, when we're having these meetings in the mornings, everything that goes into it is mind-boggling. How many things you have to think of in a single event. And you couldn't ask for anyone to do a better job than everyone did. And it's not just the job they do, and I know I say this a lot when I'm up here, and sometimes I don't know if I convey it well, but it isn't what we do every day, it's the attitude with which it gets done. Our county employees and our commissioners and staff are so professional. They're not looking at the clock. Whatever it takes to get the job done, they're willing to do it. Everything that transpired before the storm, during the storm, and after the storm, everyone handled with such professionalism. They were calm. To say it's exemplary is I can't think of a fancy enough word. Maybe Bob White can. I'm not really sure.
Need Griggs on that one.
But it gets back to, and I know I say this all the time as well, the pride I feel sitting up here for the residents of this county. The more I'm here, the more pride I have for it. We live in an amazing place with amazing people, and we are so fortunate, so very fortunate. And I take great pride in that. And I know some folks, like I sign things or I'll sign off on Facebook and I'll say Currituck Pride. Can't be more proud than I am of Currituck last week. So with that, thanks to all the staff, to everyone. I can't thank you enough, and I can't have more pride than I do today. Lots of things were canceled last week. I'm sure everyone knows that. If someone out there has something canceled and wants to get put out there that it's rescheduled, when it's rescheduled for, contact the county. We're happy to put that out for you. We did have several big events that were scheduled for last weekend. They are in the process of getting those going. So Mr. Beaumont will have an opportunity to show off his barbecue expertise probably in November. We'll see how that plays out. The 350th, they're working on rescheduling that. So those things will happen just at a different date. And on the last note, our folks to the south, please keep them in your thoughts, your prayers. If you have an opportunity to help them in any way, speak up. If you have a vehicle that can transport supplies or whatever it is, speak up. Those folks need our help desperately. We're not at the end of this event. These folks by Thursday or Friday are going to be probably record levels of flooding and damage, and keep them in your thoughts and help when you can. And with that, I'll hand it over to Commissioner Beaumont.
Kind of tag teaming, because it is in fact the news story of the week. And going back to Hurricane Florence, probably one of the most dangerous attitudes as a takeaway from this event is, it was no big deal, and I evacuated when I didn't have to evacuate. I prepared when I didn't have to prepare, and watch if I do it again next time. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and even in this region, it's not the hurricane that does exactly what you expect it to do that's the problem. It's your Hurricane Fran that acts like it's coming ashore, goes back out to sea, turns around and comes right back in and smacks you. Every one of these storms needs to be taken seriously, and if you fail to do that, I know I read an interview of a gentleman that said, you know what, you can't make me go. I'm gonna stay at home and weather the storm. That person regrets that decision. And to put it in perspective, it wasn't just him that he endangered, but it's those first responders who have I'm going to get it done, I'm going to do whatever it takes, that they get put at risk as well. So please do not underestimate the next hurricane that comes along, because while we got spared really significantly this time, that may not happen the next time around. And so, yep, protect you, protect your family. That's all I got.
As both commissioners have said, we have certainly been blessed. It could have been a whole lot worse for Currituck County. We are Currituck strong, and North Carolina is strong also. And I do want to thank all the people who worked and put all the long hours in, and for the leadership we had. And on another note, I'd also like to congratulate our Medicaid unit of Social Service Department. They passed the single county audit with distinction, no findings. This represents the skill set and dedication of these employees. Job well done to the staff and to the director, Samantha Hurd. So as our chairman said, we have a lot to be proud of here in Currituck County.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall?
Again, looking back, and the other commissioners are exactly right, we got very lucky. I'd like to give, besides the staff, which I shared some of the information that Mary Beth sent with us, with other commissioners from other counties, and they were amazed by the amount of information we were putting out that they weren't. And I shared with them, and they were like, wow. And I sent them copies. So thanks to all of the staff. I'd rather have more information than not enough. As to the husbands, sons, and everybody else, I got the last laugh in this, and I was at the dump, and I noticed there were a lot of old swing sets that were rusted, a lot of old lawn furniture, a lot of old grills that were being thrown away right before the storm. So they finally listened to their wives or whoever it was and said, clear that stuff so I don't get it hit with it. Well, they did. It was unbelievable, the amount of debris of those three types. Thank you, and I can gloat because I had already done it last year. So, thank you.
Fair enough. Commissioner White?
Thank you. So I'm going to interject some more levity into tonight's meeting, and I did what Paul said. I left and went to Hershey, as many of you know, and got some goodies this evening. And I was searching hard and long and far to find something for the chairman.
Oh, no.
And, you know, obviously he likes color in his outfits, and I was trying to find a nice bow tie with some Hershey Kisses or something, but sadly they don't make those.
Wow.
So, for you,
No.
we dug really deep, and it was in the bottom of a pile of stuff.
I'm sure it was.
We have some Reese Peanut Butter Cup socks.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank
So
you.
give us those.
I'll wear those to the next meeting. I have a tie to match.
Well, there you go.
Very
See,
nice.
I figured you could find
Very
something
nice.
to go.
Very nice. Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
well, and it gets better than that. So,
Oh, no.
So as I'm going through, you know, thinking about you guys and other people, I was thinking about Ike and how much he hates dessert.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you get a guy that hates dessert? Well, you get him a 5-pound bag of Twizzlers, which could hardly be classified as dessert. It's strawberries. So for Mr. Ike, here you
Exceptional.
go.
Exceptional.
Yes. So, anyway, but in all seriousness, the amount of information that came out this time through the various sources of the county was pretty astounding. I was constantly sharing stuff that was put out, so I just would like to commend the county for their information they put out and just keeping everyone up to date. It was pretty amazing, the amount of information that was put out. So, thank you. Great job, all.
Thank you, Commissioner White. Commissioner Gilbert?
Thank you. Couple things. I received a lot of phone calls, Facebook messages, and of course I don't conduct business on Facebook, but the question was why we ceased the sale of alcohol so quickly. And for as long as I've been on the board, I can count quite a few occasions that the cease of alcohol has happened when a state of emergency or we implement evacuation. That is part of the policy that we have in place. No one commissioner, the county manager, the county attorney. No one single-handedly makes that decision. That decision was made from our policy and has been into effect, I was told today, for probably the last 30 years. So this isn't something new. For those of you that, had a hard time because we ceased the sale of alcohol, I went into the ABC store in Moyock and asked, what kind of traffic came through once they closed, and I was told that they had a couple people that were not friendly at the door, but there was not a mad rush when the alcohol sales were returned to get in the door and purchase more alcohol. So I apologize for any of the small businesses that lost so much business that they couldn't continue because of the sale of alcohol. But again, first and foremost is safety. And when we make decisions, it's consistent throughout the county, and that is something that we had to implement. So I just want to put that out in public. On the same token, we are blessed, and we've talked about our volunteers and our staff. On September 28th, we will have the senior awards for volunteers at the senior center. So if you want to RSVP, you can just call the senior center. But that is just an excellent way to thank all the volunteers that serve Meals on Wheels and the seniors that participate. It's a very invigorating luncheon, and just I'm hoping to be there, but I just want to thank everybody in advance for all the volunteer hours that are put in. So that's a great program. And then another opportunity to help those affected by the storm. On Saturday, the Northeast North Carolina Republicans are going to be selling barbecue plates at the shopping center in Moyock across from the Hardys from 11 to 4 for $8 a plate. So you can drive through, get your barbecue, and take that with you. Or you can eat in the grassy area, but it'll be right next to the Shivers, the purple little building that sells snow cones, in that grassy area. So come and support them, and then the profits from that are going towards supplies for the less fortunate of our neighbors further south. So that's a great opportunity. And then just another reminder that the rabies clinic is this Saturday. I believe that's still on. So if you have your rabies records, you can get a 3-year shot. For county residents, there's no charge. So again, load your furred babies up and come get their rabies shots this Saturday.
And it's 8 to 10, so don't show up at 9:45 and go, where's everybody at? So please, they'll stay there until they're done, but please don't show up the last second or show up after 10 o'clock. Sorry, I didn't mean to tag in.
Perfect.
Commissioner Payne.
Kudos to the staff for what they've done during the storm. A couple other things that some individual may not be aware of, but Currituck also, we have a mass casualty bus that is stationed here in Currituck, and we were asked to send that down to the area, and that was used to actually evacuate people, take people in wheelchairs and nursing homes and transport them to a safe area, and some personnel went with them. I'd like to congratulate that happening for our local group there. And then the Crawford Fire Station also sent a couple apparatus down to the area as well with some of their personnel to help with the evacuations, checking homes, seeing what can be done. So Currituck County also, had support set that way, and they're to be commended for what they did to help our neighbors down south. And I wanted to just let everybody know that. And just a quick little comment that Commissioner Hall made about the yard cleanup. I did hear a comment that a lot of yards went from Sanford and Son to Home and Garden. So that's all I got to say.
Okay. With that, I'll close the Commissioner's report and move on to public hearing. Consideration and action PB 13-17 Moyock Crossing Phase 2. Request for an amended preliminary plat use permit to change setbacks for lots 39 through 46 for Phase 2 in a conservation subdivision located on the north side of Shingle Landing Road, Moyock Township. At this time, whoever is going to speak towards this issue other than public hearing folks, please come forward to be sworn in. Raise your right hand. Your other right.
I did it, and I was like, wait a second.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ms. Cicero, who we might start calling Lefty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, even though I can't tell my left from my right. This is a use permit, and it's a very straightforward request. The applicant is requesting a reduction in a rear setback. This is for Phase 2 of Moyock Crossing. It is located here. This is Phase 2. The original approval for this project, the first phase was 2013. The second phase was 2017. This is in the Moyock, obviously in the Moyock area. It is full service in the 2006 land use plan. All of this is zoned single-family residential. The applicant had a self-imposed greater than regular setback, rear setback for lots 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, and 44. There is wetlands in this area. So they're, by our UDO, they are required to have a 30-foot wetland setback from riparian setback. Originally, the developer wanted to, it ended up having a 65-foot setback. So there was a 30-foot riparian buffer and then another 35 feet of drainage area and an additional setback. The applicant is now coming forward and asking for that to be reduced to the 30-foot riparian buffer that is required by our UDO and a 20-foot drainage easement. But they are asking to remove the increased 10 to 20 feet setback. This was a self-imposed, this is what they offered up with the preliminary plat, so now they're asking for that to be reduced. It still exceeds our UDO requirement of the 30-foot riparian buffer. Because this is a use permit, we do have certain standards that we have to meet, and these are still, I can read through them, but these are the ones from the original approval, because this is still, the only thing that's changing on this is that setback. So the findings of fact that staff is required, or that staff typically is responsible for giving to the board. I can read through those just to get those on the record. That the use will be in conformity with the land use plan or other officially adopted plans. Our preliminary findings, staff findings, is 2006 land use plan classifies this site as full service and rural within the Moyock sub-area. The full service area contemplates a residential density of 2 units per acre, but could have densities of 3 to 4 units per acre through the overlay zoning depending on the services available and the potential impact. The policy emphasis for the Moyock sub-area indicates in areas where central sewer is planned or existing, additional services are available, and the character of the surrounding area supports a higher density ranging from 3 to 4 units per acre can be considered through overlay zoning. The proposed development density is 1.3 units per acre. The proposed use is in keeping with the policies of the land use plan, some of which are policy ES2, policy HN1, policy HN3, and policy TR7. Another findings of fact that staff is responsible for is that the use will not exceed the county's ability to provide adequate public facilities, including but not limited to schools, fire and rescue, law enforcement, and other county facilities. The infrastructure for this subdivision was installed and accepted by the county and state for compliance and use. The existing vacant lots within the subdivision are included in the projected school demands, and the existing occupied dwellings are included in the total average daily memberships. So this has already been factored into our school capacity calculations. And as you can see, we are still, in your staff report, we are still under the 85% for school capacity. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that the board may have. Staff does recommend approval of this. Once again, it still exceeds our UDO requirements of the 30-foot riparian buffer with that extra 20 feet. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Ms. Lississer, if you'll bring up, go back to one of the maps that shows the adjoining property. The additional drainage in that area there's currently a drainage there now, correct?
Yes.
But with the expansion or changing the buffering and expanding the drainage, that would help both developments, correct?
Well, they're just asking for a reduced setback, right? And there's the mouse. The reduced setback is here. This line right here is the 30-foot riparian buffer, and there's their additional 20 feet, the dotted lines around the buildable lots. Whoops. So it's these lots right here, and you can see the area. This is the riparian. This is the wetland area, the riparian area that we're going to do the 30-foot setback. Or they're required to do this 30-foot setback. So this is all internal to this subdivision. And the drainage area is just essentially sheet flow from the individual properties into the riparian 30-foot setback.
Okay.
So it doesn't increase the number of lots,
Does not increase the number of lots.
doesn't reduce the distance between that house and the neighborhood behind.
Correct.
All it does is back up to where basically the usable property is with the riparian and with the 20 feet.
Correct. Originally, this dotted line that runs right through here was 10 to 15 feet further towards the Hidden View Loop
Got it.
road.
So they're getting more lot.
They're getting more buildable area for their lot, correct.
So that area is not wetlands that we're giving up? It's
No,
just
it is not
grass.
wetlands. It was just the applicant self-imposed this greater setback on themselves and put it on the preliminary plat. And so they're coming forward. Once they started building houses in there and they felt they needed more buildable area, they've come back and asked for a decrease in that extra setback.
I have a couple of questions. You said lots 39 through 44. On our page, it says lots 39 through 46 is what would include Mr. Brook. Okay, I have another question for her as well, if I can first. This might be a question for Mr. McCree. How does it affect Mr. Brook's land value, or does it at all?
I don't know right offhand. I'm not exactly sure, I guess, until we hear from the engineer what modification is being made to Mr. Brooks' lot. I
don't believe any if it's not in that area. It's a typo. Right. It's 39 through 44. Right.
To 44.
Can you wait till you come up to the mic,
Yeah,
perhaps,
if you
so
would.
that
Thank you.
that's on record? Thank you.
So that's the question I had. So if the applicant could please come up, that would be great. If you would state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jason Mazzell with the Timmons Group. Thank you for having us here this evening. First off, my sincerest apologies. That is a typo. It is lots 39 through 44, as Lori pointed out on the map. It's just those lots that are along the wetland area. To answer another point that came up, the boundary line of these lots is the wetland line, the actual property line. So there are no portions of those lots that extend into the wetland areas. So just to make sure that's clear. So there are no wetlands being given up in any lots. The wetland lines.
So that
stop.
15 foot, if I want to put a shed, I can put a shed because it's not wetlands.
Well, you've got a 30-foot buffer from the property line inward, and the property line is the wetland line. So, I said there are no wetlands inside of any of the lots.
So you can't put it outside of your property.
Can't put it outside of your property, no. Right. I'm pretty sure the homeowners association would have something to say about it. So.
And as a type 1 riparian, what are you allowed to do from a clearing, grading, whatever?
Nothing.
And you
It
understand
is- It is
that.
riparian buffer. You
Got
cannot
it.
touch that. The additional 20-foot was on the previous plat. It represents a drainage easement. And again, the only thing that can happen in there is drainage appurtenances to the subdivision itself. In going through their sales of the property, the developer and builder have noticed certain trends with certain house square footages, things like that. And these few lots, initially they had a smaller plan. It wasn't something that the people that are buying the homes were interested in. And in order to get the square footage, they felt like if they could get the setback reduced, they can make some of their current floor plans fit in that spot, as opposed to going to something like a two-story home, which wouldn't fit the character of the neighborhood. All the homes out there are single-story. So that's kind of how we got to this point. So
So you want larger houses, one story?
well, the houses that have sold thus far are. The houses they initially looked at on these few lots would have been smaller than what has sold in the neighborhood.
Okay. Any
It would
further
not be any
questions?
larger, wouldn't be any larger than what's previously out there selling now.
Any further questions for Mr. Mazzell? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Ms. LoCicero? Just 1 second, if I could. With no further questions, I'll open the public hearing. And I currently have a couple folks signed up. I don't know with this change if you still want to speak. I have Bobby Brook and Alton Brook. Al? Yes. And, sir, would you like to speak during the public comment?
Yes, sir.
If you could come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, that'd be great. Thank you.
My name is Gary Cubitt. I am under contract to buy Lot 44, and the house will be completed in about 60 days.
Okay.
So the same question applies about tax and setback. If I understand what is being proposed, on average, there's a 65-foot buffer now, a 30-foot riparian, a 20-foot easement, and some distance from that 20-foot easement to the buildable area. Is that correct? That is correct. Right. So I don't know what the effect is, if any, that's measurable, but I'm curious to hear the answer, though, that's all. So.
Okay. Would Mr. McCree or Ms. LoCicero have any idea whatsoever how it affects the tax value? Are you taxed on the lot size? Are you taxed with the setbacks? I know I am personally taxed for my lot size, and I have setbacks. So I don't believe moving the setback affects your tax value of your property.
Yeah, and is
I don't believe
there
it
any
does.
maintenance issues for the easement? Is that the property owner, homeowners, does that change?
He'd have to take care of the 15-foot. I would think he would have to take care of the 15-foot. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the lot owner will own the land.
Own the land anyway.
Subject to the drainage easement or other buffers that are.
Well, I'm not going to get a mansion tax now, am I,
No,
for
sir.
having a half acre?
No, sir. No, sir, you're not.
Just a little more grass you got to cut.
Right.
That would be
I
a
don't have to
large
cut it. That's the
family
beautiful-
structure.
Yeah.
I don't believe so. Like I said, I know that I'm taxed on how many acres I have. Setbacks don't apply.
Okay, I'm just trying to find out
Okay.
what's going on and how it works, so. Is
I-
there anything else?
I feel like we've answered your question.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone disagree? Yes, sir. I don't have you signed up. Would you please come to the podium and state your name and address?
Yes, how you doing? My name is Leo Butler. I live at 125 First View Way, which is Phase 1 of Moyoc Crossing. And my initial question was, how would this additional land affect the water behind there? Because I'm not from this area. I'm from Massachusetts. I've never seen water like this in my life. This is a fact. And driving down here today, I see all this flooded land. I'm just beside myself.
Right.
At my property itself, it's very, very wet behind my land. And it's not your concern, but with my buying of my property, I was told that I have 65 feet behind my property. 30 of it's not usable. How can you turn around and sell somebody land that's not usable? The ditch is almost 25 feet deep. Now, I can't do anything. I've been there, this kind of thing. I wish there was more people here from Phase 2 that would know what they were getting, because I did not get what I wanted. I did not get what I was told I would be getting. I have a feeling, I walk my dog there every single day, and I have a feeling that that wetland that crosses there is going to affect their yards, and then they're not going to have usable land. And I also wanted to know if they bring back any trees, anything else, what's that going to do to the water that exists to the area already? Can anybody answer that?
Ms. Cicero, it's my understanding they're not changing the drainage or the riparian area. It will remain as it sits.
It does. That's the intent. This is essentially reducing the extra setback just to increase the buildable lot.
Closer to his property, to where the house is actually going to be. It doesn't affect what's behind him at all.
Well, does not affect what's behind me. It affects what's aside of the first view way.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
But it's not, they still can't build in the wetlands.
No.
So the
Can't do
wetland stays, or the riparian buffer, right?
Is anything going to be taken away as far as grass, trees, this and that?
That's the
going-
question that I asked.
Okay.
And they can't touch anything in the riparian buffer.
Right.
What about that 15-foot? Is there anything they can touch now? If there's 3 trees, can somebody take them out now if they want?
If it's
Yeah,
on their
sure. Once they,
property,
well,
There's your question.
Right.
If there's 15 foot.
I mean, that's going to be
That's
each
going to
individual
affect-
lot owner. That's going to be each individual lot owner outside of that 30-foot
They
riparian
can
buffer.
clear it, that 15 foot, but that's closer to the house, not the end, closer.
Closer
That's-
to their house, not to yours.
It is, well, no, it's the back of their yard, closer to our property in Phase 1.
Right.
So-
But the clearing would be from the riparian to their lot, or to their house.
Not towards the
Not in
back.
your direction. They can't trespass into the riparian.
Okay. Removal of any land, tree, anything else, is that going to affect the water that's already running behind Phase 1 and behind our property?
It shouldn't.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would it, yes, ma'am. Would you like to come up and speak? Come on up.
I'm Bobby Brook. I'm at the one that's not now affected, but it kind of is affected. My question is, I don't understand why this is being proposed. I know from what you said, it's because they have, like say on lots, and I can't see it very well here, but on lot 39 and 40, the rumor was all of a sudden they couldn't build on those lots because they weren't considered big enough. But if I understood what you said, it's they can't put certain houses, right?
Again, it's not that they couldn't build on them, but what my understanding is from the builder is that what they have seen in the sales of the lots and the interest in the floor plans they were originally offering, those smaller footprints were not selling.
Right.
And they were having a hard time moving those lots.
Okay.
So that's why they initially requested that.
So that's code for the average price of the house that surrounds you will be more expensive because
Which
they're
is good.
bigger, which improves your property value. Although I'm not a real estate appraiser, don't play one on TV either.
But, okay, my
But I
question
slept it.
is, why were
Oh.
lots that were already sold, like Gary's, for instance, why is his even included? And I don't know how many were sold on, I know 39 and 40 were not sold, I don't
Like,
believe,
When did
but,
we start the process? That may be a better question. When you
April?
contract. Yeah, I mean, this
When
this
is-
process takes a while.
It could have been
so-
sold after the process started.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that answers my question. I mean, I'm not affected personally, but I am a little concerned why the people that already had bought or contracted to buy their lot were included. It seems like it would have just been the unsold lots.
I don't know that, my understanding was none of these lots were sold at the time we
At the time?
applied.
Okay.
Okay.
You've
I
not,
don't know.
you've not closed on your property, is that correct? Okay.
I think we're the first ones to close in the neighborhood, in Phase 2.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you're gonna do a setback, you should do a setback. If you're gonna have a reduction, it should be for all the lots that would be impacted by this and not just a couple here and there. So that's why it's 39 through 44, everything that abuts the wetland area.
Okay. Okay. Would anyone else like to speak during public hearing? With that, I'll close the public hearing, and I will open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent, I move to approve PB 1317 Moyoc Crossing Phase 2 because the applicant has demonstrated the proposed use meets the use permit review standards of the UDO.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to new business, consent agenda.
Make a motion for approval.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to county manager's report.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. With that, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for coming this evening.